checked my husband sitting beside me on the couch, relieved that our discussion from last night didn't appear to cause any long-term harm. This wasn't unexpected, given his strong masculine trait of speaking up, addressing an issue, and then moving on. Topic closed. Mission accomplished. I had anticipated this dynamic when raising the topic last night. Dave, are you having an affair with Karen? I was almost certain he was. Over the past 2 or so months, there had been subtle but significant changes in his behavior. My clock used to be accurate with his arrival home. Now it's often delayed at least once a week. Before, I knew his every move 24/7, but lately there are unaccounted for intervals. Moreover, he had developed a new friendship with Karen, the widow across the street. On one Saturday, I returned to find him mowing her lawn. After I inquired about his actions later, Dave explained that he observed her twisting her ankle, so when he spotted her returning home with groceries, he offered assistance in unloading them. During this time, he noticed her overdue lawn needed mowing, which he promptly attended to for her. Subsequently, I discovered him multiple times across the street. Once, he returned wearing his shirt incorrectly buttoned. Upon inquiry, he disclosed that he was fixing Karen's blocked sink and had taken off his shirt for convenience. Unable to comprehend this man, whom I thought incapable of deceit, was unfaithful, I intensified my surveillance. As a test, I began subtly withholding affection from him. Knowing his character, I assumed that if he could endure a week or two without intimacy, he must be finding it elsewhere. He managed to last 3 weeks without mentioning it. Yesterday, he unexpectedly went to work on a Saturday, an unusual behavior for him. Within half an hour, I saw Karen departing, impeccably dressed. I knew I wouldn't need intricate spying or private investigators with Dave. A straightforward question sufficed. After mustering my courage, I asked him the question. He just looked at me squarely and replied, "No." That was essentially it. "Are you involved with anyone else romantically?" Again, a simple denial, "No." I knew then without any doubt. My husband wasn't engaged in an affair. He returned to watching TV. I chose not to propose anything to him that night, as I pondered why I'd initially suspected him. This line of thinking proved unproductive. Secondly, I didn't want to emphasize my suspicions by withholding affection longer than ever before. Tonight was an exception, though. Tonight I aimed to mend any rifts I may have caused. Stealthily, I continued monitoring him. If I were to describe Dave in one term, I would say he was a straightforward man. Quiet, guileless, subdued, unassuming, a straightforward thinker, oblivious to detail, loyal, direct, extremely honest. These were the traits that described him, some of which others misconstrued as signs of his simplicity. I knew better. These characteristics were the result of his challenging upbringing. Explaining his lack of ill will was more complex. Saying he had 0 milligrams of malice in him didn't resonate. As for me, I was nearly the exact opposite. So why did we get married 4 years ago? The answer is simple. Opposites attract. I'd tried relationships with men similar to myself, but they failed. Then my mother suggested her secret to a successful marriage: marry someone unlike you and navigate the differences. Utilize each other's strengths and compensate for their weaknesses with your own. Dave and I had frequently discussed this during our long courtship. He acknowledged his flaws and desired me to be fully content with them before we became committed. Ultimately, it was I who proposed to him. Essentially, he was my partner for life, and I cherished him deeply. I intentionally ceased observing him through the eyes of a contemporary professional woman and instead turned to the side that had been used since antiquity when attraction first blossomed. His towering 6 feet 1 inch height and muscular physique, earned from his demanding job, made me appear diminutive. In the local dialect, he was robust yet gentle. The ideal blend of well-endowed and thoughtful lover completed the package. I became aware that I was getting anxious in preparation for my impending apology. I knew I had to act swiftly when Dave announced it was time for bed. I obliged and entered the bathroom to tidy up. Upon exiting, Dave was on the verge of sleep. Without clothing, I snuggled close to my bulky spouse, who once more yawned. "Can't we postpone this for now? Why can't we, dear? Didn't I upset you last night?" Dave yawned once more. It wasn't because of that. He had an unprotected liaison with his boss on Monday. My friend warned me that such a situation could expose me to a disease. Good night. He turned away from me then, lying on his side. I unwound myself from him, taken aback. He knew. How did he know? When had he known? What was I going to say? I hadn't expected this day to arrive so soon, and I didn't have any excuses ready. I knew the reason I'd given at the start. There was a promotion on the horizon at work, and I wasn't entirely convinced it was secure. In truth, I had doubts that Dave would succeed, and I was content with him as he was. If we were to accumulate a sizable savings for our future children, I knew it was my responsibility. The promotion would be an important stride towards that aim. Initially, I had been replying to my office manager's overt flirting. He was taken aback. Within fortnight, our interactions transitioned from flirting to a whole evening rendezvous at a motel. I took great pride in the cunning scheme I hatched to secure us a night pass. However, I knew I couldn't employ that rationale with Dave. In retrospect, it could appear slightly selfish or even loose. Under certain perspectives, it was almost promiscuous. Following our first encounter, things took an unforeseen turn. Believing Carl and the promotion were set, I had thought our encounters were a one-time event. However, two factors debunked this assumption. Firstly, after being with me, Carl began openly flirting with Pamela, my primary competitor for the promotion. If Pamela chose to leverage her natural assets as well, it was clear that there would be no definitive winner. The second factor was the exhilaration of the experience rather than the intimacy itself. The act, I had to concede, paled in comparison to my relationship with Dave. After all, Dave had a 7-year head start to learn my preferences. Rarely have I encountered a man as skilled as Dave in my life. No, what I experienced wasn't the same satisfying rush. Instead, it was the exhilaration of concocting an excuse to be elsewhere, with another person, while I should have been at home with my husband. The intrigue lay in devising various tales to explain my whereabouts if Dave questioned any part of my story. The nervous anticipation before cleaning up and returning home. The heightened heartbeat as I selected a secret hiding spot for my new lingerie, bought to compensate for my shortcomings compared to Pamela and to intensify the experience for Carl. Even the slight guilt I felt before and after added an unexpected spice to the situation. There was also the thrill of the remote possibility that Dave might uncover my activities. Mental stimulation all around. Last night's question has mysteriously found its own solution. The suspicion towards Dave was triggered by my own actions, which are now glaringly obvious with hindsight. When one points an accusing finger at another, remember it's pointing back at you 3 times. These realizations, in the present moment, provide a clear explanation for everything. I can hardly reveal them to Dave. The response is a blunt none. That's why I lied through and through, living with his back turned towards me. I had to keep things vague. He knows about last Monday, but what about the 5 Mondays prior and the weekend Saturdays? This truth-telling wasn't made easier by my fear. Overcoming this fear required nearly 3 minutes of my courage. Carl approached me when I was feeling particularly downcast. He invited me to lunch, and in that setting, I had approximately 3 glasses of wine while he complimented me on my attractiveness. I apologize, my dear. I succumbed to his deceit, resulting in our meeting in a room. Oh, Dave, it was dreadful. I felt abysmal afterwards. Once the encounter ended, I felt wretched and told him such an event should never repeat itself, to which he agreed. It was excruciating not to inform you about my fall and infidelity, but I wished to shield you from the pain. Indeed, I did. A week later, Dave approached me again, casually announcing our rendezvous for that very night. I declined, but he blackmailed me, threatening to tell you and get me fired. Oh, Dave, what could I do? I knew if I lodged a complaint and it came down to his word against mine, I would likely lose. Regrettably, Dave, I've stopped telling him to depart when he flirted with me recently. Previously, I always had done so. That likely emboldened him. It's possible enough people in the office observed our flirting and would support his version of events. I hesitated to observe Dave's reaction to all this, provide him an opportunity to respond. This was taxing work. In the darkness, Dave lay on his back without speaking. Could you find it in your heart to forgive me for one momentary error, love? Your support would give me the strength to resist him and decline. I ought to have done that from the beginning. If he attempts to impede me at work or dismiss me, I can use this information as a threat. I'm confident he will leave me alone. Dearest, please forgive me, and I promise to spend the rest of my life making amends to you. I vow never to flirt with another man for as long as I live. I now understand that it may be enjoyable, but I also know it can be extremely harmful. Please, it seems that a tactful interrogation strategy involves the questioner remaining silent and allowing the suspect to fill the void with unwise confessions. I was astounded to discover that my beloved Dave was shrewd enough to employ this method, though. In truth, I had no more words left to say. I remained in suspense as I anticipated a revelation from the stillness beyond the bed. Nothing transpired, and that was reassuring, wasn't it? There was no immediate response from him, which was a good sign. The only audible sound was my heartbeat echoing within my ears, until I detected a faint snore beside me. He was asleep. Had he not heard anything? That was somewhat advantageous. It afforded me the opportunity to devise more persuasive reasons. However, it also introduced another predicament. Apart from being uncertain about what information he had regarding me and Carl, I didn't know how much of my explanation he had overheard. At which juncture could my recent excuses cease and new ones commence? The remainder of the night was spent strategizing, and I finally dozed off after 4 a.m., only to awaken exhausted the next day. As you might expect, I woke up feeling fantastic. Dave usually departed for work before me and returned earlier. I pondered over letting him leave without uttering a word, but fear compelled me to descend the stairs. He was merely finishing his breakfast when I arrived. Unusually, there wasn't anything prepared for me. I sat down across from him at the kitchen table. "Good morning, Sue." That was all. No affectionate greeting, no endearments, no warm expression. "Excuse me, sweetheart, what were your thoughts on our conversation last night?" "I'm sorry, Sue. I told you I was extremely tired." Thank goodness for that. It allowed me a fresh start, a chance to withdraw my words, which even in the bright light of day seemed pitiful. "Well, dear, I'm sorry, Sue. I need to go to work. I don't want to be late." He stood up, took his bag, and departed, leaving me utterly clueless about our status. Somehow, I struggled through my morning rituals and arrived at work slightly behind schedule. I was exhausted. The instant I had the chance, I visited Carl's office to share the exciting news. To state he reacted poorly would be an understatement. Being self-centered as he was, he could only seem to concentrate on its implications for his own marriage. For roughly 2 weeks, his wife had been absent with their children, attending her mother's residence. His demeanor appeared to calm down upon hearing that Dave lacked any malicious intent and wouldn't disclose anything to his spouse. Alarmingly so. Within a brief span of time, he requested another meeting. His blatant disrespect for my marriage was revolting. I conveyed that such an encounter wasn't likely in the immediate future. On reflex, I refrained from stating never again. Fortunately, I resumed my usual habit of anticipating potential consequences. I regretted not adopting this strategy 6 weeks back. Had I done so, perhaps I wouldn't be in this unfortunate predicament at present. Somehow, I managed to endure the remainder of the day. I parked discreetly around the corner from our residence and rehearsed my statement. I had decided to delicately investigate if Dave hadn't overheard anything the previous night. Upon verifying this, I intended to present my new defense strategy. Anticipating 2 or 3 potential reactions, I adjusted the plan accordingly upon observing which one he would choose. Content, I completed the journey and entered the house with confidence. Dave was at the table, finishing his meal. I paused in astonishment, then moved on and kissed him on the cheek. Known to him was the need for as much routine familiarity as possible under these circumstances. "Hello, dear. What's with the early meal? Did you prepare some for me too?" "Well, it's Monday. You usually sleep over at your boss's place on Mondays and don't eat here." A mere 14 words to shatter all my intricately planned schemes. Back to improvising, I found myself. Ah, but dear, you now understand that I won't be sleeping with him anymore, was the best I could muster. Why not? Because I love you. The look on Dave's face can only be described as puzzled and questioning. After a brief pause, he shook his head. Why did you have a sexual encounter with your superior? This one question left me speechless, without an answer that could be shared. Indeed, finding an appropriate response had been challenging. As I stood there bewildered, the TV news began playing. Dave cleared his dishes and moved to his preferred chair. I appreciated the solitude to think, so I allowed him to leave and prepared my own dinner. Occupied with strategizing, this task took nearly an hour. I entered the living room approximately 5 minutes before his favorite program ended. I settled at his feet, placing my head on his knees but facing away from him. I was unsure if I could confront him directly and deceive him. I was beginning to find comfort in my new justifications when his show concluded, and he unexpectedly rose. "Where are you going, Dave?" he asked. "I'm off to the bathroom, then to Karen's." After mentioning the rats in the ceiling and suggesting traps, you said other tasks needed attending. You walked towards the toilet. "Dave, haven't you been paying attention?" "No, Sue, you know I enjoy that program." I waited as you used the bathroom and exited. "When will we discuss this, dear? When will you let me clarify? If I can't clarify, then how are we going to resolve this? How will you be able to forgive me and move forward together?" This momentarily halted you. You paused on your way to the workshop and turned back, seemingly trying to clear your thoughts. "Move forward together." I'm a bit puzzled, Sue. Aren't you with him now? I thought you loved him more than me and would choose him over me. But I don't love him, sweetheart. He held no significance for me. Absolutely none. I love you, Dave. 1. I've always been and always will be. Dave looked at my desperate expression, trying to reposition his thoughts. Why did you sleep with him then? I realized that there might never be an explanation for this question. I stood there as he collected his tools and left. An hour later, a fragment of his words from the night before came back to me. He had said, "A friend told me if I slept with you, I could get a disease." That friend must have been Karen. I don't know of any other potential friends. Dave either works or spends time with me. This detail gnawed at my conscience. I was his only friend, and yet I had stabbed him in the back. I suppressed this thought before deciding to retaliate now. I left the house and headed to the home of the man who stole my affections. I pounded on the door knocker. She welcomed me as if I were a familiar acquaintance, expressing gratitude for lending her her husband, escorting me to where Dave was regrouting by the bath before offering coffee. She subsequently bombarded me with conversation. Within moments, it became clear she had no inkling of our marital difficulties. I seized the initial chance to depart back to my residence. Regrettably, I attempted to remain awake until Dave returned, only to discover myself asleep in bed. The next instant, my alarm was ringing and Dave was absent. Call for decisive action and a strategy that consistently worked. I knew Dave was undeniably a man of deeds over words. I phoned work and took the day off, cleaned the house, then went shopping. A four-course meal I had in mind were all Dave's favorites. With an hour remaining, I showered, selected my most attractive dress, and applied the perfume that always caught Dave's attention. The dialogue for that evening was planned out. Each time I implemented this strategy, I became aware it was becoming increasingly challenging. I wasn't sure if Dave had listened to any of our past talks or my one-sided discussions, but that limited what I could discuss now. When Dave arrived home as usual and seemed pleased with my efforts, I kept the conversation casual, avoiding anything potentially unsettling. Our conversations were rather ordinary. I chose to let him steer our progress forward since he'd had the entire day to ponder my words from last night. There was no doubt in his mind about my love for him. After I finished cleaning up, I felt at ease enough to cuddle with him on the couch, but he moved away. "I already told you, Sue. My friend said not to make love to you." This fellow had a habit of thwarting my plans. "Who is this friend, dear?" "I'm sorry, I can't tell you." I was taken aback. It seemed that Dave was being influenced by another woman, which was my role. I couldn't think of anything to say, so we just watched TV until bedtime. The following day, Carl summoned me to his office, inquiring again about our next meeting. Primarily to spoil his self-satisfied expression, I shared with him the details of Dave's mysterious new acquaintance, the one who might have exposed our affair initially. It was evident that Carl had no interest, so I tactlessly suggested it could be his own wife. This startled him. As I spoke, a sense of accuracy hit me. Could she truly be his wife? The proposition seemed plausible. Given our circumstances, it seemed like something both Carl and I might do, informing the other partner's spouse while quietly arranging to leave our respective marriages in an orderly fashion. We then spent an hour debating whether her character could align with such actions. Yes, it did. Then we pondered over how she might have discovered our affair. With my meticulous planning, I couldn't conceive of a way. In the end, Carl decided to confront his wife. There were no more mentions of hotel rendezvous. That evening, Dave arrived later than usual and only after my mother. Every Wednesday, my mother visited for dinner and conversation. The dinner proceeded as usual, with Dave appearing his typical self. I trusted Dave to keep secrets, but perhaps unwarrantedly. After the meal, my mother began her recurring topic of discussion. When will you two provide me with grandchildren? I was about to give my customary response when Dave interrupted. I'm sorry, Ma, but it won't be happening now. You see, I caught Sue sleeping with her boss. The table met my jaw moments before it did Mom's. In that moment, I realized there were sides of Dave I had not known. Fortunately, I regained my composure first. Dave, why would you taunt my mother like that? I assure you, I was not involved in anything similar. Go upstairs until you can behave like a civilized individual. Dave retreated to the upper floor. I apologize for his behavior, Mum. I don't understand what caused him to act this way. For all these years, and now he unexpectedly reveals a sense of humor. Mum gave me a puzzled gaze. She was acquainted with Dave. She knew his straightforward nature. I attempted to steer the discussion away casually, avoiding giving it away. I can't recall where the conversation led, but Dave reappeared in the room, brandishing multiple sheets of paper, which he displayed to Mum. I did, Ma. See, even went as far as doing something inappropriate with her. What on earth? Photographs? I broke down. I also knew my cheeks were flushed crimson. Leave this place, you despicable man, I crumpled, bawling on the table. I can't remember Mum's exact words, but they were uttered forcefully. I picked up some phrases like promiscuous, lying, let down, make amends with Dave. Honestly, I think my subconscious mind just blocked out this verbal assault. It sensed, given everything else happening, I was unable to cope with it. Eventually, Mum calmed down and simply gazed at me until I regained focus again. Why? Look around you, Sue. You possess an appealing job, car, home, and until recently, a husband who adored you. Why did you seemingly end things between you two so abruptly? I didn't end it, Mum. We're just going through a rough patch, that's all. He knows he won't find anyone like me again. He wouldn't dare leave me over this. If you claim so, Sue. However, I understand men and your Dave. Frankly, I believe he's left. So, answer me honestly. Why? I couldn't fathom her belief that my marital fate was no longer within my grasp. It had to be unfounded. Yet, I needed to conceal my true feelings at this moment. I faced a choice. Should I continue lying to my mother or test drive honesty with her? My self-assurance had crumbled significantly over the past 3 days, leading me to choose truthfulness. Well, Mum, about 6 weeks ago, I slept with my boss in order to secure a promotion. I knew Dave wouldn't amount to much, so I felt it was on me. Yes, we have a nice house and possessions, but our savings account contains barely $50,000. Children are expensive. Once I began, I found myself becoming increasingly invested. That brings to mind the upcoming announcement of the promotion, which should occur this week. When it arrives, it will add approximately $40,000 annually to my income. I recognized the emptiness in my words, so I chose to halt at that juncture. How can you say Dave won't achieve much? He was appointed foreman barely a month ago. He even treated me to dinner on that occasion. That was the evening you were called back to work unexpectedly. The disbelief on my face might have registered with her. You didn't know, did you? All I could do was shake my head. Well, if you were curious about how long Dave has been aware of your deceit, I would estimate around 4 to 5 weeks. Isn't that right? I remained speechless as my mother departed. Dave was nowhere to be found, so I retired for the night and wept myself to sleep. The following day, I was a mess. I received 2 phone calls from my sisters, each expressing their disappointment in me. Upon returning home, I found an empty house. By dinner time, Dave hadn't shown up, and I called his cell, but it went unanswered. Given Carl's wife was supposed to return that day, I felt uneasy. I phoned Carl to check on him, and he informed me she was late. He too had been expecting her for dinner, but she wasn't there yet, and neither was she responding to her phone calls. Oh dear, Dave went to bed around midnight. When I asked him where he had been, he confessed he had gone out trying to make new friends. Despite my self-centeredness, I felt a pang of empathy for him. I should have been the friend he needed. I couldn't muster the courage to address the issue. The next day at work, one of our mutual friends, Julie, called me, inquiring about rumors she had heard. I feigned ignorance. She didn't press the matter further, which left me pondering the fragility of my friendships. All my acquaintances were also Dave's. I was aware of his unique standing among them. Despite not being the social dynamo, he was well liked among our circle of friends who seemed to guard him intuitively due to his hidden fragility. If a kidney transplant were needed, it wouldn't be Dave offering, but then again, it wouldn't have to be. In an emergency, Dave would be at the clinic's door long before anyone else. Recently, I pondered, in such a situation, which side of our friends would I find myself on? I unexpectedly reached out to Dave at work. Dave, did you tell any of our friends about me? Perhaps Sue. Why did you betray me like that, Dave? I am your husband. But why should I keep Sue from them? Because if you spread rumors that I've been unfaithful, our friends might see me as an adulterer. Were you seeking that image for yourself? Certainly not. Then why did you sleep with your boss? Ah, things couldn't get any more complex. My mother and sisters were ignoring my calls. In the brink of losing friends, and with my husband acting abominably, I found myself in disbelief that my mother was correct. My marriage seemed to be reaching its end. Despite the dire straits, there was still a glimmer of hope. As I pondered these thoughts, the receptionist made an announcement. A senior staff meeting was about to commence in 10 minutes, and it would reveal Pamela's promotion. After the chaos subsided, with anger rising inside me, I stormed into Carl's office and closed the door. What's this, Carl? The promotion was meant for me. I deserved it. Carl shifted uncomfortably in his seat. For the past 3 months, you were the front runner, he explained. But under pressure this morning, I had to endorse Pamela instead. I apologize, Sue. Why did you hand her that position? To be honest, my wife returned last night, and she was almost herself, except she's giving me these peculiar looks. I think I overheard some rumors, but she doesn't have enough evidence yet to confront me. Concerned about reinforcing whispers, I deemed assigning the position to Pamela a tactical move. To deflect suspicion, I decided to act. I tried hard not to lunge over the desk and strangle the arrogant man. Instead, I calmly told him, in 2 years, I'll be preoccupied with babies. I then left without any commentary about my early departure, allowing people to assume I was upset about being bypassed. At home, Dave had a message saying he wouldn't return till nightfall. This was reassuring as I required solitude to ponder. A bottle of thinking aid was opened with a corkscrew, and I attempted to categorize my troubles based on significance. It turned out that the solution was straightforward: repair my marriage and rebuild trust with friends and family. If Dave could find it in his heart to forgive me, then hopefully so would my loved ones. However, I now had a means to aid me. If I could locate where he stored those images, there might be a private investigator's report or something similar. Moments later, he descended the stairs with those photos. Our bedroom, walk-in wardrobe, and bathroom were the only places upstairs. With a plan in place, I climbed the stairs feeling optimistic. Beginning on Dave's side of the closet, I found nothing. There was nothing hidden under his bed or in his nightstand drawer. It seemed too audacious for him to conceal them on my side of the wardrobe, but he had. In truth, the folder of photos was hidden inside a small suitcase, within a larger one, right beneath my collection of secret lingerie. Quite adorable, Dave. No, not Dave. That was inconceivable. A wave of anger struck me. She had been in my house. But who was she? Dave usually returned home an hour before I did. Could that be when they spoke? The only woman who had been present when I arrived was my sister around 2 weeks back. It was highly awkward to examine the photos, a full-color reminder and bitter acknowledgement of my unfaithfulness. All the photos were taken during a single session, but which one remains uncertain. The motel rooms all appeared identical, offering no distinguishable differences. To decipher which session it was, I sought clues in the depicted activities. All the actions shown of Carl with me and me with him resembled activities we had been engaging in since our third Monday meeting. This narrowed down the possibilities to the last 3 Mondays and one Saturday. My intuition leaned towards the last meeting. What prompted Dave to disclose my secret? The suggestion of intimacy. As if by fate, my recent 3-week abstinence returned to haunt me. Why not? Every other event had. Intriguingly, there was no private investigator's report or any other indication suggesting how I had been unmasked. The act of returning the photos to the envelope and then carrying them down to burn in the fireplace stirred a thought. There was something peculiar about her chosen hiding spot that nudged my senses. What made it so relevant? The realization struck me midway down the stairs, leaving me momentarily stunned. It was a deliberate, strategic act. A clear declaration of war. In the brief time it took to destroy the photographs, I found myself contemplating who might have informed Dave and led him to hire a private investigator. Or was it someone else who had engaged a spy, supplying him with copies of these pictures? That could only mean Carl's wife. This thought sparked another idea. If Dave employed a spy, there must be a financial trail. I rushed towards the filing cabinet, but the most recent statement was 2 months old. However, there was a 7-day-old credit card bill. It showed no major purchases. I navigated to our bank's website and downloaded the latest statement. I began searching 6 weeks back. The statement displayed only daily expenditures, our salaries being credited and the balance gradually rising. I observed that Dave's pay had surged by more than $1,000 every 2 weeks 4 weeks ago. Wow, that was quite a promotion. Yet he opted not to share this joy with me. Through my tears, I continued scanning for any uncommon withdrawals. Nothing turned up. On the final page, the balance plunged from $58,000 to $5,000 last Saturday with the brief message, transferred to XXXXXX. What on earth? I logged off and found myself seated at the kitchen table, bewildered. There was no doubt in my mind why Dave had emptied our account. The real question was, how was I going to respond? Instead of reconsidering my actions, I pondered, should I take action? My resolve never wavered that I wanted to reconcile with Dave. He was my partner, the love of my life. He was meant to be the father of our children and the grandfather of our grandchildren. He had been the foundation of my life. The remaining hours until Dave returned home were spent perfecting my explanation. It was well crafted, adaptable to how little or how much he knew. Its essence lay in the "I was tempted by a skilled manipulator at a weak moment" narrative, but it had grown considerably since then. My strategy was to justify my actions, then follow up with an aggressive charm offensive. I aimed to make him see the potential loss if he stayed away. In essence, I intended to lure him back. However, I was hung up on one detail. It seemed she, his friend, held some influence over him. Who was she? What was her appeal? What were her intentions? Perhaps a private investigator could help. But then Dave arrived home. I greeted him with a warm embrace, which he reciprocated casually. "Congratulations on your promotion, sweetheart. I've forgiven you for not telling me sooner. I understand how my behavior may have driven a wedge between us. Thank you, Sue." How did things go for you? I know you put in a lot of work for it. This man always seemed to sabotage my plans with such innocuous intent. How did he find out about your promotion? Oh, I see. They gave it to Pamela instead. Was she involved with the boss too? With great effort, I brushed off his subtle jibe. Please take a seat while I brew you some coffee. Fill me in on your evening as I prepare it. Julie phoned me and invited me out. I joined her, Stan, Jenny, and Mick. It was enjoyable. Did you discuss me? Affirmatively. They inquired about the details, so I shared them. Frankly, I wasn't keen on doing so, but they insisted. They are our friends, after all. From where did those pictures originate, dear one? Well, a friend gifted them to me. Is this a fresh acquaintance, my love? Yes. Is she an office companion? No. By the way, I discovered and destroyed them tonight. Dave raised his eyebrows. I burned them so they wouldn't interfere with you forgiving me, Dave. Perhaps the location where you found them implies that you two intended to go out tonight. Resisting the impulse to yell with every fiber of my existence, I formulated a response. He merely offered an opening for further investigation. No, I already told you. Such an occurrence will never reoccur again. Honestly speaking, I can't pinpoint why I went back for another round. He's not very skilled at things. Not like my exceptional spouse. I extended my hand and touched Dave's thigh. Then why? I understand. Why did I sleep with him? I'll explain that later, dear. However, I need answers first. Dave, where is the money? Upon checking our account, $50,000 has vanished. Yes, I understand. You moved it to another account. But why, Dave? What's your plan? I'm aware you've executed it already. My friend mentioned that during our divorce, despite your infidelity, the law requires us to split the money equally. It doesn't seem fair. She advised me to stash the money safely for when I depart. However, a lawyer confirmed this action is illegal. Yet, if I relocate abroad for 7 years, you would be powerless to stop me. Something about statutes or time limits was mentioned. In 5 days, I leave for Vietnam. Normally, your faux pas with statute would amuse me, but not today. If you take all the money, I'll be left with nothing. You'll still have your job, but I don't want that job. Then why did I sleep with him if not for that reason? Goodness. This was reminiscent of debating with an obstinate, determined child. Despite being flustered, I realized I needed to act swiftly. 5 days, taking weekends into account, would be sufficient for obtaining a court injunction, at least securing the finances. However, was I willing to invest all my effort and resources on that when what I truly wanted was my husband back? No, I wasn't. If I channeled my energy towards keeping him away from his advisor, his friend, then I was confident I could steer him back on track. Dave, you keep pressing about why I had affairs with my boss, Carl, and I feel compelled to explain. You see, approximately 7 weeks ago, I was in a low phase and Carl was constantly trying to console me. I'm sorry, Sue. I'm genuinely exhausted. Can we discuss this another time? When Dave, this is crucial. If I don't disclose why it occurred, then you can't forgive me. If you don't forgive me, then we won't have a future. If we don't have a future, then I won't get to have your children. I hadn't anticipated using my trump card at this moment. Intended for use when all hope seemed lost, it's too late now, as it has been revealed. Desiring your offspring, darling. Yes, indeed. I cherish every part of you, no one else but you. Longing to grow old together, care for you in sickness, stand by your side during our children's milestones, attend their weddings and burials beside you. Yes, David, I yearn to have your children. Finally, it became clear that I had reached him. Emotions danced across his eyes. Smothering a victorious smile, I waited for his response. A thrill coursed through my lower body in anticipation of the rekindled intimacy. Yet why did you sleep with your superior? Ugh. This recurring question was becoming incredibly vexing. By the time I managed to control my anger, Dave was already in bed. Determined not to repeat the past mistake, I swiftly brushed my teeth and joined him. When will you heed me, Dave? Tomorrow? No, not tomorrow. The market you desired for tomorrow morning is confirmed. The gathering at Julie and Stan's place tomorrow night, followed by church on Sunday morning. How about Sunday afternoon then? I'm curious to understand why Sue. Isn't it possible to be more puzzled? This weekend seemed to belong to a married couple, not one planning a tragic farewell. It merely signified yes. I managed to reach him through my words before. He just needed time to absorb them and asked his usual routine question instinctively. We were progressing towards healing. I had the best sleep all week last night. The following day, I woke up early to prepare a nice breakfast for him. He didn't shy away when I kissed him upon delivering it. He held my hand as we navigated the market. I knew he disliked such events. At Saturday night's outdoor party, it seemed like no one was aware of our turmoil. I maintained my arms around him throughout most of the evening. I observed clusters of whispering acquaintances attempting to isolate him, yet I persisted. There were some unfamiliar women present. I scrutinized his interactions with them to ascertain if any hints existed suggesting a new friendship. However, nothing seemed amiss. We both exhibited a tranquil demeanor upon returning home. Interestingly, Dave requested the taxi to halt at a corner store en route, bought some items, and their nature became an unexpected delight later on. I felt so content that in bed later, I reached out and touched his hand. To my astonishment, he did not recoil. Seizing this opportunity, I indulged him excessively. I bestowed upon him a prolonged, sensual kiss, which caused him to unwind and breathe deeply. Eventually, I allowed him to rest, but continued with affectionate gestures until he was prepared again. There was an awkward instant when I grabbed his new pack of condoms during our closeness, observing with hope that it contained 12 pieces. For the remainder of the night, until we were both drained, I prioritized his satisfaction without giving any thought to my own needs. To my surprise, I felt incredibly liberated rather than frustrated. This seemed to be how he experienced our lovemaking. We overslept and had to rush for church. Neither Dave nor I sought confession. I didn't want to lose sight of him even for a moment. When he proposed a picnic lunch by the river, I eagerly accepted. We conversed about his new job, the current state of the world, everything, except our relationship. He didn't bring it up, and neither did I. Why spoil a good thing? Sunday night was like a movie as we cuddled on the couch, replaying the events of the previous night. On Monday, I resolved to get myself tested for sexually transmitted diseases. Everything seemed fine, but each time Dave attempted to retrieve the safety measure, it felt like a knife stabbing my ribs. I scheduled an appointment to obtain written confirmation and leave it where Dave could find it. For the entire week that followed, life appeared unaffected. Dave went to work at his usual hours and returned home as he always did. No enigmatic phone calls or messages arrived. On Wednesday, the 31st, I was slightly on edge, but there were no signs of him preparing to depart. At work, I inquired about Carl's well-being, to which he responded that everything was normal at his end. Matters were so amicable on Friday night that in bed, I decided to formalize our relationship a bit. We had just concluded making love. So you've chosen to remain here, it seems. What brought about this change of heart? Was it the idea of grandchildren or the thought of losing a woman like me? No, Sue. There have been some visa complications. They've promised resolution by next Tuesday, though. What? You seem set to stay, but I didn't ask you to do so. My odd behavior and our shared intimacy since last weekend might have misled you. As you put it, Dave, refusing a remarkable woman like me would be foolish. However, the state of affairs in Vietnam remains unclear. It may take some time. Your words left me speechless, equivalent to being struck by 100,000 volts. I'm momentarily incapable of logical thought. My friend suggests informing Carl's wife about your actions, which seems reasonable. If roles were reversed, I would expect the same. I'll visit tomorrow. Good night. The peace I felt over the past week is now gone. I find myself back in a state of panic. Exhausted and disheartened, Dave switched off the bedside lamp and murmured from the dark, "If everything is with you, then why was he with me?" Overpowered by my future fading away, I reflexively sought assistance. I jumped out of bed, descended to the downstairs, and dialed Carl's mobile. He was undeniably dismayed, instructing me to meet him at his workplace so we could devise a plan. I hurried upstairs, dressed, and embarked on the 20-minute car journey to work. Dave peacefully snored in his sleep. Upon arrival at work, Carl grilled me for all the details about Dave's morals, values, vulnerabilities, and physical traits. I cautioned him that in a fair contest, Dave would outmatch him. After he was content, Carl drove us home. We continued our conversation on the way. Once there, I stumbled for the front door as the sensor light failed to function. I climbed the stairs to awaken a grouchy Dave while Carl waited in the living room. Upon our descent, Carl was visibly tense and kept his distance from Dave, my spouse. He implored and beseeched Dave, leveraging details about Dave's sensitivities to appeal to his sense of morality. It seemed that the potential devastation of Carl's children's lives ultimately resonated with Dave. This was the moment he showed compassion and pledged not to disclose Carl's wife's information. Carl appeared noticeably relieved, for this was the first time he moved toward Dave to seal the agreement. I felt an unusual sense of dissatisfaction. The handshake prolonged beyond the norm. I gazed at their interlocked hands and noticed Carl's grip was turning pale, paler than his face when I looked at it. Eventually, a soft whimper escaped him, ending the contact. He quickly rubbed his hand. I informed Dave that I would arrange transport back to my vehicle and escorted Carl out. Dave headed towards the kitchen and inquired, "Sue, could we talk privately for a moment?" I consented, instructing Carl to stay in the car first. Upon my return, Dave was pulling on a rope, pulled through an open window. Shortly after, a thump and curse came from outside, indicating possibly Carl had fallen. This peculiar chain of events sparked numerous queries, but Dave preempted them. "Sue, suppose you're in a bar. Someone offers you $2 million to spend the night with them. What would be your response?" I realized my thought process wasn't clear, so I tried evading the question. "Dave, is this some sort of game?" He requested patience. "Just indulge me, Sue." "Well, for $2 million, I'd likely agree. Reflect on it, Dave. $2 million equals a luxury car, a posh house, club membership, prestige, and a family without financial woes." "Thank you for your candidness, Sue," he replied. "If that man asked you for favors in exchange for $20, what would your response be?" "I'd tell him to get lost and ask him if he thought I was a prostitute." "What do you suppose he would say, Sue?" I sighed, not knowing the answer. "I haven't the slightest idea, Dave." He might reply, "We both know what you are. Now we're just negotiating the price." "Good night again, Sue. Try not to disturb me when you return." "I'll be back in under an hour, Dave. We really need to discuss something." As I walked down the dimly lit driveway, I pondered over what that meant. It seemed like a convoluted way for Dave to call me a prostitute. Dave isn't known for his subtlety. I was taken aback to find Carl sitting in the passenger seat of his own car with tissues pressed against his injured knuckles. He told me he had tripped on the path and hurt himself. If I drove, he could stop the bleeding by the time we reached work. I managed to get us there and made sure to kiss Carl goodnight before leaving. For 20 minutes on my way home, I contemplated my dismay over Dave choosing to stay silent and scolded myself for destroying those photos. Without them, I needed to devise another method of alerting Carl's wife. I realized my marriage was at an end. No man refers to his wife as a prostitute, however subtly, if he intends to remain with her. If I could rupture Carl's marriage, perhaps I could manipulate him into permitting me to upgrade by trading with him. He might be financially disadvantaged after the divorce and not physically attractive, but he would still be wealthy. I was determined to seize something from this predicament, and I planned to give it my best effort. My only plans were lawyers on Monday and attempting to obtain an injunction to block Dave's bank accounts. I hoped it wasn't too late. As I approached the house, I spotted the flashing lights of a police car far off, parked in our driveway along with another unfamiliar car and a van. Approaching the entrance, I encountered a man wearing a white jumpsuit exiting, carrying an axe handle within a transparent plastic bag labeled. Within, a uniformed officer questioned my identity and instructed me to wait in the downstairs bedroom, until a detective could confer with me. Simultaneously, from the adjacent property, I spotted Karen speaking to a man in formal attire. From my vantage point upstairs, I overheard her conversation. She reported observing me departing in my vehicle around 10 p.m. Soon after, she received a call from Dave, who mentioned he anticipated hostile visitors. He requested her vigilance over his house should the visitors depart, and if he hadn't contacted her within 5 minutes, she was to contact the police. She provided an accurate description of Carl's car, stating she had a clear view under the streetlight. Moreover, she offered a description of Carl as the man she had observed accompanying me towards the house. Roughly 45 minutes later, we both departed the premises. Instead of simply calling the police, she chose to visit and found the door ajar. Taking a bold move, she entered the house where she discovered Dave, unconscious and bleeding, next to a bloody axe handle. Following her first aid training, she called an ambulance, placed Dave in the recovery position, and stopped his bleeding until help arrived. Upon completing her statement, she opined it was reckless of me and whoever the man was to leave behind so many evidentiary items. The detective stated that such behavior is typical in impulsive crimes. Having been released, Karen hurried to the hospital. I knew my turn was coming, and it wouldn't matter much what I said. The culprit of Dave's new friendship appeared to be a crafty individual. I was apprehended, inevitably. An hour following my arrival at the station, Carl was placed in the holding cell adjacent to mine. He was sporting what would likely be an impressive black eye by morning. In response to my unspoken query, he said, "My wife." Upon returning home, he found his wife ready to confront him about his infidelity, having been informed by Dave weeks prior. She had built up frustration over this period and vented it all on him. He pleaded for her forgiveness and vowed not to seek divorce. However, she made it clear that she didn't intend to file for divorce anytime soon, predicting a possible 2 to 5 year separation. An hour later, a doctor came to treat his injured hands, but only after a police evidence photographer had finished. The sight of Dave handling a rope then made sense. It was likely meant to trip someone and potentially cause injury. My backup plan was ruined when Carl muttered, almost to himself, "I lost everything. Damn, everything for what? Just some mediocre intimacy." It took me 3 days to find someone willing to post bail for me, not even my own mother. Upon my departure, Carl remained stationary. It appeared neither our partners were in a forgiving mood. Upon re-entry, Dave was seated by numerous suitcases. He bore a large bandage on one side of his face, the rest marred with bruises. Ever the gentleman, he rose as I approached the table. He winced slightly, suggesting his ribs ached. "Ah, so your visa has arrived." "What?" I glanced at the suitcases. Dave mimicked my gaze. "Oh, those? They're actually yours. Why must you depart if you're heading to Vietnam in a few days? Can't I stay here? I have no other place to go. I doubt I could afford anything else after losing my job." Dave regarded me with an almost sympathetic expression. "I never intended to travel to Vietnam, Sue. That was merely to pressure and corner you." As I pondered this revelation, Dave idly rubbed the side of his face. Apparently, that woman can wield an axe handle quite forcefully. "Karen, do you mean?" "No, Carl's wife. She may seem small and unassuming, but she packs quite a punch. I suppose you think she's an acquaintance, Dave." "No, there's no familiarity there, Sue." A sudden certainty struck me, silencing my response. As I said earlier, Sue, my upbringing as a ward of the state taught me to conceal my emotions, thoughts, and especially my intellect. Showing any of those traits would have led to trouble. By the time I grew up, it became second nature. It turned out that pretending to be dim-witted made people underestimate me, giving me an edge. Initially, I thought you saw through all that, Sue, but it seems even you got simplicity and idiocy mixed up. Statute of limitations, in this case, indeed. I glanced up and noticed the smile on his face as his words from last week resurfaced in my mind. This was one of the longest monologues I'd ever heard from him. I understood the truth in his words. I came to understand that I had been outmatched by someone who was far from dumb. Indeed, there never was a friend named Sue. I fabricated one due to your firm belief that I was incapable of accomplishing these tasks independently. Ironically, imaginary friends were my companions during my childhood as well. Who was this person? Additionally, let me clarify that no lawyer was involved. Intelligent individuals do not resort to lawyers in divorces. They foster conflict, and the more strife, the more prosperous they become. Thus, they instigate conflict, becoming wealthier while others suffer. He allowed me the opportunity to process all this information. It took time. So who led you to believe I was, in essence, being unfaithful? You hinted at it again. No one informed me, Sue. I deduced it on my own. A wise man listens and observes, while a foolish person chatters. That is what I did with Sue. Indeed, Sue, moving from no evening work to working every Monday night for 6 weeks and 2 Saturdays too, all while refusing my company at home. The regard you showed me was commendable, wasn't it? And the photos? It seems I'm once again the subject. You should remember to shut the curtains when you're being indiscreet in motel rooms. I couldn't help but recall one of your colleagues at work. He was always quick to repeat management buzzwords. His latest phrase was paradigm shift. I came to understand that was what I was grappling with now, my mind adjusting from believing I married a straightforward, simple man devoid of deceit to someone who outsmarted me at every turn. That took some time as well. But you never gave our marriage a chance, Dave. I was the only one striving for it. You never truly considered forgiving me, did you? Of course not, Sue. We discussed that many times, didn't we? What was that you named it? Our one chance and you're out rule. Yet, you didn't allow me a chance to defend myself. You never paid heed to anything I said. Instead, you lashed out with, "Then why did you sleep with your boss?" I almost choked you then. Yes, I understand, Sue. Frustrating, wasn't it? However, that accusation provided me the time required to arrange everything and maneuver you into a situation for the confrontation with Carl. And yes, Sue, I did listen to you. Every single word you said. In bed on our first night together, in front of the television, every word. I walked away whenever I couldn't bear your lies anymore. They were crushing me. I lowered my gaze in utter embarrassment at all the recollections. In all your speeches, those you delivered to me and probably rehearsed in your thoughts, there were two things conspicuously absent, Sue. The truth and any hint of regret. Have I ever felt more dejected? The only time I recall hearing the truth was when I overheard your conversation with your mother. That was insightful. I could take no more. I rose and headed for my luggage. Dave attempted to assist, but I advised him to tend to his ribs. Indeed, Dave, your recent amorous actions left me under an illusion that all was well between us. Well, what can I say? I'm a man, don't forget. Notably, it may have served as a diversion from visiting lawyers, wouldn't you agree? Moving on, should you desire camaraderie in the future, you know where to find me. If I'm single at that time, I'm confident we can arrange something mutually beneficial. I collected my belongings and stepped out to face my destiny, glancing back once at my uncomplicated spouse. And thus, our tale concludes for today. Did it follow the course you anticipated, or did it present an unexpected turn? I'd be interested in hearing your thoughts. Share them in the comments below, and let's initiate a discussion. If this story captivated you, don't forget to like it. And if you're new here or haven't subscribed yet, now would be an ideal moment to become part of our community. Daily, I deliver enticing tales for your enjoyment. Hit the subscribe button and enable notifications to stay informed. Appreciate your time, and I look forward to connecting with you again soon. Our first story has come to an end. Write in the comments if you liked it. Now the next one will be coming. Let's listen. On a Tuesday evening at 7:30 p.m., while I'm handling bills and Emily is loading the dishwasher in our kitchen, she surprises me with a statement, not following an argument or a dispute. "Nathan," she begins, using her cautious tone that signals Hoadu's increases or Caleb needing new sports equipment. Looking up from the electric bill, I ask, "What's up?" She turns off the faucet and faces me, her messy bun and suburban wife outfit giving nothing away. After 17 years together, I recognize every emotion on her face. This time, it's unfamiliar. "I want a hall pass," she tells me. The pencil in my hand freezes. I wait for the joke or explanation that clarifies this statement, but neither arrives. Instead, I ask, "A what?" She leans against the counter, arms crossed. One night, just one night, a respite to regain myself. The kitchen now feels constricting, and the overhead light appears overly harsh. I lay down the pencil and focus on her completely. "Regain yourself," I echo. "Yes." Her voice gains momentum now, as if she's rehearsed this speech. "For 17 years, I've been a mother and a wife. I adore Caleb, I cherish you. But I've lost myself amidst all of this. I'm 41 years old. I've been married to the same woman since we were kids. I can distinguish between her genuine laughter and her polite smiles. I know she adds hot sauce to her meals when under stress. I know she prefers sleeping on her left side when content, but tosses and turns all night when unsettled. Currently, she's in our kitchen, the kitchen we chose together, with the backsplash she personally installed over 3 weekends, asking me for approval to be intimate with someone else. "Who is he?" I inquire. She jumps. "It's not about who is he, Emily?" I inquire again. A silence lasting long enough for the refrigerator to switch on. "There's a man at the gym, Eric. He invigorates me," she confesses. Invigorated. Apparently, contrasting to what our marriage makes her feel, I assume. I lean back in my chair. The digits on the electricity bill merge together. $97.32. Due on the 15th. "For how long?" I ask. "For how long has this been on your mind?" she queries back. "A couple of months. A couple of months. While I've been rising at 6 to brew coffee for us both. While I've been putting in 50-hour weeks to keep our house barely affordable. While I've been coaching Caleb's little league team and fixing the stubborn garage door, all while pretending not to notice her changed gaze towards me. It's merely one night, Nathan. Just one time. To relieve myself of this burden," she explains. "To free herself from this burden," she says. Just as it's a flu or a yearning for ice cream, then what? I inquire. Then we return to usual. To us. Yet she'll be complete again. United States, normal, whole, these words echo within me like pinballs. I recall our wedding day, the first apartment with a faulty heater, and the dog next door that wouldn't stop barking at night. I remember her tears upon Caleb's birth, and our promise to never let anything harm him. I ponder 17 years of constructing something together. Mortgage payments, school conferences, family trips to the Outer Banks, homebound movie nights replacing dates. The gradual shift from passion to partnership that I believed was customary for couples like us. Perhaps it was. Maybe the issue is Emily no longer desires normality. "I must ponder this," I state. She nods hastily. "Certainly. Take as much time as you require. But Nathan, don't allow this to become about you. This concerns my journey to rediscover myself. Please, let this not be about me." She approaches and places a tender kiss on my scalp, a familiar, comfortable kiss that one gives to a housemate. "I'm going to check on Caleb," she announces, her steps echoing up the stairs. I remain seated in the kitchen, scrutinizing the pile of bills scattered across the table: mortgage, car insurance, school supplies, the usual structure of an ordinary existence. A feeling stirs within me, something cracks, shifts like a foundation adjusting to a new level. I grasp the pencil and calculate the electricity bill: $9,732, due on the 15th. When Emily reappears downstairs, I'm still at the table. "He's doing homework," she informs me. "Math." I respond casually. She lingers by the doorway, hesitant. "So, we're all right?" I question her, looking deeply into her eyes, my wife, mother of my child, my long-time companion in bed. "Yes," I confirm, gazing at her. She seems relieved. She smiles then. "Thank you for your understanding," she says. "I appreciate it." That night, she falls asleep swiftly. I remain awake, gazing at the ceiling, hearing her breathe. 17 years of marriage. 17 years of constructing something jointly, one brick at a time, one compromise at a time. 17 years of assuming we were on the same side. I don't feel angry. Anger would be simpler. Anger would be expected. What I feel is clarity. She didn't just ask for a pass. She tried out for a life without me, and now she waits to see if she gets the role. The digital clock shows 2:47 am when I finally grasp what that change meant. That serene sensation in my chest. It wasn't my heart breaking. It was my tolerance ending. 3 days later, Emily brings it up again. I prepare breakfast. She drinks her coffee. Caleb voices his dissatisfaction with his math teacher, prompting us to enact our long-practiced household dance. From an outsider's perspective, we seem ordinary and functional. I've become adept at maintaining a normal facade. On Thursday morning, after Caleb departs for school, she inquires, "Have you considered what we discussed?" She adopts her measured tone, gauging the situation. I respond, "Yes," while pouring myself another black coffee, abandoning cream years ago, yet unable to recall why. "And?" she queries. I turn to confront her, still in her robe, hair loosely draped around her shoulders. I used to see this soft, sleepy image of her every morning before work, belonging entirely to me. "I want you to be content, Em," I say, sparking hope and relief in her eyes. "Actually," she verifies. "Yes, truly." I shrug indifferently. "If that's what you require," I continue, "then you should have it." The untruth flows effortlessly. Perhaps I've been rehearsing deceit longer than I realized. She moves towards me across the kitchen and embraces me firmly, expressing gratitude. Instead of handing her a lethal weapon, I presented her with a gift. "Thank you, Nathan, God, thank you," she says. "Is it difficult for you?" I examine my emotions as if inspecting circuit breakers in an electrical box. Am I hurt? Yes. Betrayed? Definitely. But difficult implies a struggle, and I'm not wrestling with this. I'm mapping out a plan. "When will this happen?" I inquire. She looks at me cautiously. "This weekend? On Saturday night?" "Of course," I reply. "I'll return Sunday morning. Early. Take your time." Later that day, I head to Durham. Greg Holloway's office is located between a tax preparation service and a store selling cell phone cases in a shopping mall. The sign on his door reads, "Holloway Investigations." Discreet, professional, confidential. Greg perfectly fits the mold of a private investigator as envisioned by central casting. In his early 60s, with a gray mustache and eyes that have witnessed too much and judged too little. He used to be in state police until his knee gave out. Now he trails cheating spouses and documents insurance fraud. "Is it marital issues?" he queries upon my explanation of the matter. "Something similar," I respond. He provides me with a fee 200 per day plus expenses, payable in advance. I write him a check. I inform him that she is unaware of my hiring. They usually aren't. He records Emily's details, license plate number, cell phone, email address. Essentially, the essential structure of surveillance. "What specifically are you searching for, Mr. Caldwell?" "The truth," I state. He nods as if this is clear. "When do you wish to begin?" "Saturday evening," he replies. "She should depart the house around 7. Do you have any idea where she's heading?" She mentions meeting friends from yoga. Greg's face remains impassive, but something flashes in his eyes, perhaps professional doubt or compassion. "I will track her. Gather all data, photos, timeline, locations. You'll submit a comprehensive report by Monday," he states. "How extensive?" I inquire. "If this leads to court, the information should be thorough. The term court lingers between us, a path I haven't committed to yet." "Is there anything else you need to know?" he queries. "Only one thing," I reply. "Are you absolutely certain about venturing down this path? At times, being unaware can offer a serene peace." I ponder the query. Do I yearn for the truth, or do I wish to uphold the pleasant delusion that my wife's predicament is merely a midlife crisis, destined to fade if I wait it out? "I require knowledge," I respond. "In that case, I will reach out." In the evening, I spend time with Caleb as he completes his homework. Mathematical problems, as Emily suggested. Problems of fractions and percentages. All problems reducible to clear, straightforward solutions. "Dad?" Caleb inquires. "Yes, dear," I respond. "Are you and Mom all right?" Children always sense. They perceive even when we believe we're hiding it flawlessly. Why do you inquire? I ask. He shrugs without looking away from his worksheet. You two appear different lately. Is there a reason for this? Sometimes grown-ups change interests, like from dinosaurs to baseball, I explain. Are we being replaced by something new with Mom? He queries. His question is sharp and poignant. No, kiddo, Mom cherishes you above everything else, I assure him. It's true, even though it might not be the whole truth. Emily could gamble her marriage, but she wouldn't endanger her bond with Caleb. I hope that's the case anyway. What about you? He asks. You too? I question in return. Does she love you just as much? I guide him through a math problem. If Jenny has 100 marbles and gives away 30, what percentage does she have left? She loves me, I reply. During the rest of the week, time seems to stand still in an odd limbo. 70%. That's how much of her marbles Jenny has left. Emily is nearly jovial, humming as she prepares dinner and inquiring about my work projects with new curiosity, akin to someone eagerly anticipating release from confinement. I repair the damaged outlet in Caleb's room, change my truck's oil, return overdue library books, routine tasks for an ordinary life on the brink of extraordinary change. On Friday evening, Emily trims her leg hair in the shower. I am aware because she requests more razors when I go shopping, a habit she has neglected for months. These minor details paint a larger picture. Are you anxious about tomorrow? I query as we prepare for bed. A bit, but good anxiety, she responds. Good anxiety. It seems as though she is preparing for a job interview rather than infidelity. You'll enjoy yourself, I respond. I believe so. She turns to face me. Your understanding of this situation, Nathan, is remarkable. Many men wouldn't be. I am not like many men, I reply. She isn't just a number to me. She plants a gentle, fleeting goodnight kiss on me, still partially in our home, even as she's almost out the door. The casual inevitability of Saturday evening descends, much like the sunrise. Emily takes an hour meticulously preparing herself. A shower, styling her hair, and applying makeup. She considers 3 distinct outfits before deciding on form-fitting jeans and a top that reveals more cleavage than she's shown in months. She doesn't appear ready to meet friends from yoga. Instead, she seems dressed for a date. You look nice, I comment. Thank you. She gives herself one last glance in the hallway mirror. I should return by tomorrow morning, no later than noon. Have fun, I reply. She departs with a quick, chaste kiss. A wife's farewell, not a lover's embrace. The differentiation feels significant. I observe from the window as her Honda Civic turns the corner, taking my spouse to her rendezvous with another man. Then I text Greg. Left behind, he swiftly replies, engaged in his activities. Caleb and I opt for pizza and a Marvel film, complete with blasts and champions who consistently uphold justice despite the cost. An idealistic world of black and white morality that rarely appears in reality. Can we get a dog, Dad? Queries Caleb. Possibly, once things stabilize, I answer. Mere adult matters, nothing for you to fret about. He concedes my explanation with the understanding kids have when they sense their parents tread waters too deep for young passengers. He dozes off on the couch amidst the climactic fight scene, remote controls still in his grip. I lift him and guide him upstairs, tuck him in, then return to the living room. The dwelling seems altered without Emily's presence. Less noisy, yet not void. Akin to the sensation after extracting a splinter, the sudden realization of relief from past discomfort. At 11:30 p.m., my phone vibrates with a message from Greg. 8:45 p.m. at Chapel Hill Marriott, a man showed up, accompanied by a fit male around 30 years old. They headed to room 412, under surveillance continues. I put down my phone and wrapped up the movie. The heroes triumphed, as they usually do in films. That night, sleep eluded me not due to apprehension or sorrow, but because of an unusual sense of lucidity that rendered slumber unnecessary. I spent hours lying in bed, gazing at the ceiling, contemplating load-bearing walls and architectural stability, pondering what transpires when a crucial support beam is eliminated. Emily returns Sunday morning at 10:20 am. The sound of her car in the driveway, the soft clink of keys in the lock, her steps on the stairs echoed. She slipped into bed beside me, as she had countless times before. Her scent was altered, a blend of foreign soap and another's cologne. "Nathan," she murmured, to which I made no response. After a while, her breath evened out in sleep. Each morning until midday, I ponder over everything I already understand and what lies ahead. Afterwards, I brew coffee and anticipate Monday. Emily exudes a near cheerfulness at breakfast, humming as she prepares Caleb's lunch, inquiring about his day's plans, affectionately kissing his forehead before he departs for school, acting the doting mother with refreshed vigor. "How was your night out?" I inquire over coffee. "It was good," she replies. "Very good. The girls and I visited that recently opened wine bar in Chapel Hill. We chatted for hours. It felt like being back in college." Her words flow effortlessly, rehearsed. She has considered this exchange, planned for it. "That sounds enjoyable," I respond. "You deserved it." "I did. Thank you for your understanding." She departs for work with a bounce, as if alleviating an irritant that had troubled her for months. Tuesday morning, Greg's report arrives securely via email, containing a comprehensive 47-page document, time-stamped photos, hotel records, bar receipts indicating orders from room 412, security camera stills from the lobby and elevator. The images are meticulously detailed. Emily is depicted entering the hotel with a man resembling a fitness magazine model. This man appears to be Eric. He is tall, broad-shouldered, exuding an air of self-confidence. In 3 photos, they can be seen holding hands. The last photo shows them departing together the following morning. Emily's hair looks disheveled, and her clothes are wrinkled in the final image. Eric has his arm around her waist. I scrutinize the images for 20 minutes, searching for evidence that could alter my perspective. Perhaps they just conversed. Maybe they drank and recognized their mistake. Maybe my wife of 17 years failed to carry out her plan to be with a stranger. 11:30 p.m. room service ordered, champagne and strawberries, extended checkout till 11 am the next day. The hotel invoice spins a different tale. In my home office, I ponder for long stretches, peering outside to see Mrs. Peterson walking her dog, as if life persists oblivious to mine, reconfiguring around fresh truths. The odd part is my lack of shock. Neither elated nor desolate, merely validating latent suspicions I wasn't consciously aware of. It's akin to receiving test results that clarify why you've been feeling unwell. Upon Emily's return from work, she seems radiant, humming while preparing dinner, inquiring about Caleb's day sincerely, and acting her role as wife and mother with rejuvenated zest. "How was your weekend?" I inquire during supper. "Amazing," she replies. "The girls and I visited that new winery in Chapel Hill. We conversed endlessly. It reminded me of college days." With practiced ease, the same falsehood she peddles. She remains steadfast in her fabrication. "That's nice," I respond. "You needed that." "Indeed," she replies. "Thank you for your understanding." Caleb discusses a science project about volcanoes. Emily chuckles at his explanation of combining baking soda and vinegar. I observe her playing the part of loving mother as scenes from Greg's report flicker through my mind. Following dinner, she proposes we watch a film together, an activity we haven't engaged in for months. She snuggles up to me on the couch, her head resting on my shoulder, her fingers idly fiddling with my shirt buttons. "I feel like myself again," she whispers during a tranquil moment. "Well," I reply, "I was concerned you might be upset." "Why would I be upset?" she inquires. "I'm not sure. Some men might resent their wives enjoying themselves without them. Their wives enjoying themselves. That's what she calls it." "I am not like those men," I tell her. "No," she concurs. "You're not." That evening, she initiates sex for the first time in months, showing excitement and presence not seen in years. Afterward, she dozes off with her head on my chest, breathing deeply and contentedly. I contemplate foundation changes, load-bearing walls, and structural integrity, pondering what happens when a critical support is removed. On Wednesday morning, I summon a locksmith. He arrives at 9:30 a.m., 40 minutes after Emily departs for her job at the real estate office. The locksmith, professional and efficient, inquires not a word. I pay him $200 to change the locks on both the front and back doors, receiving 3 sets of keys in return before he departs in his vehicle. Caleb is at school. The house is now under my control. I begin with the master bedroom closet, carefully folding her clothes as she had taught me when we first moved in together, avoiding destruction or impulsive actions, such as tossing her clothing into the yard like a spurned husband in a country ballad. Clothing items such as sweaters, blouses, and the little black dress she wore to my company Christmas party last year are packed carefully in sturdy contractor bags used for demolition work. A total of 13 bags neatly arranged on the porch like waiting deliveries. Her dresser follows. Underwear, jewelry, the birthday perfume I bought her, all items that personalize a house into a home. Each item is handled with meticulous attention, much like the wiring of a house where each connection and detail matter. The bathroom medicine cabinet contains prescription bottles, expensive face creams, an electric toothbrush. She insisted we needed items that defined her space in our shared living areas. I'm not enraged. This feeling is unexpected. This doesn't feel like retribution. It feels more like restoring balance or placing things back in their rightful places. By midday, every sign of Emily has been eliminated from our bedroom, bathroom, and closets. After 16 years of a common dwelling now reduced to trash bags on a porch, next destination is First National Bank. The manager there, Miss Chen, recognizes us well. We have renegotiated our mortgage through her on 2 occasions. She handled the loan for Emily's car under professional courtesy and small-town acquaintance. I inform her of necessary alterations to our joint accounts. She inquires about the nature of these changes. I desire to extract myself from the joint accounts and establish new ones under my name exclusively. The regulations regarding individual decisions on shared assets differ. She guides me through the paperwork, reviewing checking, savings, the money market account for Caleb's college fund. My name is removed from the joint accounts. The balances are transferred to newly created accounts, now in my sole ownership and control. All seems well with you, Mr. Caldwell. Miss Chen inquires as I sign the final form. Just streamlining things, I respond. By 2 p.m., I've rerouted my paycheck, adjusted my direct deposit, and closed the credit cards. Tomorrow, when Emily attempts to purchase lunch, she'll find the modifications. She might learn earlier if she checks her balances online. In the afternoon, I'm engrossed at work, setting up new outlets for a downtown renovation project. The task requires physical effort, keeping my hands occupied and clearing my mind. It's like meditating as an electrician, connecting one thing to another, observing the flow of power, and watching lights illuminate. It's straightforward logic in a world that makes sense. At 4:30, my phone vibrates. Likely Emily, unsuccessfully utilizing her debit card. I ignore the calls. More buzzes follow at 4:45 and 5:15. By the time I leave work and return home, there are 7 missed calls and 4 messages waiting. I read them from my truck in the driveway. Nathan informs me that my card isn't functioning, asking for a call. He questions our account status, finding it unamusing. He demands a response. I'm on my way home. We need to discuss the matter. Already parked is Emily's Honda Civic, and she stands on the porch, gazing at the 13 contractor bags filled with 17 years of shared memories. I exit the vehicle and approach the house. Upon seeing me, a flurry of emotions cross her face: bewilderment, wrath, comprehension, fear. Nathan, why is this? She inquires. Ascending the porch steps, she involuntarily makes way for me, then realizes she cannot enter with me. Her key in hand, she finds the locks have been altered. Why is this? She queries again, more forcefully. I unlock the door and face her. Yours or mine? Nathan, what's happening here? She demands. You sought a pass. You took it. Now bear the outcome, I retort. Her mouth moves as if to speak, but words elude her. I don't understand. Chapel Hill Marriott, room 412, Eric from the gym. In a calm tone, I continue. You stayed until Sunday morning, ordered room service, champagne, and strawberries. Shock washes over her visage. How do you know? I explained that I had someone trailing you. What? She breathes in shock. A meticulous private detective displays one of Greg's photographs to a visibly distressed woman. The picture captures Emily and Eric entering a hotel, with Eric holding on to Emily's back. He had diligently recorded all evidence. Her eyes are fixed on the screen as if waiting for an explosion. Nathan, let me clarify. What is there to explain? You deceived me, didn't you? You spent Saturday night with another woman while we were watching a movie with our son, I inquire. The words linger silently between us. I seldom yell at her, but this moment calls for finality. It was only one night. You claimed that you wished for my happiness, I retort. I didn't say I'd tolerate you jeopardizing our marriage, I counter. Tears now flow freely, genuine ones, not the calculated tears she employs during disputes. Nathan, please. I made a mistake. I can rectify this, she insists. No, you cannot, I retort decisively. Yes, I can. We can attend therapy sessions. We can address these issues, she begs. Emily, my tone remains calm and resolute. You tried out for a life apart from me. Good for you, you landed the role. I enter, shut the door, and the lock clicks decisively. She beats on the door, calling, Nathan, Nathan, open this door. We need to discuss something. I saunter to the kitchen and grab a beer. Outside, through the window, I see her on the porch, her phone pressed against her ear, likely talking to her parents or sister, definitely not Eric. Men like that don't linger for the chaotic aftermath. The pounding ceases after 10 minutes. Her car leaves our driveway. I watch as the tail lights fade down our street, carrying my wife towards the next chapter of her premeditated new life. At 6:30, Caleb arrives home, brought back by Mason's mother from baseball practice. Dad, where's Mom's car? He inquires. She's staying with Grandma and Grandpa for a while, I answer. 12-year-old son inquires about my reasons, eyes reflecting more awareness than usual regarding our adult issues. In time, he'll grasp the whole situation. For now, I offer a straightforward explanation. Adults occasionally require time to solve problems, I reply. He queries if she will return, a question I've been anticipating. No, not to reside here, but she remains your mother. That fact doesn't alter, I assure him. He nods seriously, showing the strength children possess when their world undergoes transformation. Will we be all right? He asks again. Absolutely, we'll manage fine, I respond. At that moment, for the first time in days, I feel optimistic. At 7:30 p.m., Emily's father calls. Robert Walsh, retired middle management, weekend golfer, a man who's never cared much for me but tolerated me for his daughter's sake. Nathan, what in the world are you up to? He growls. Good evening, Robert, I say. Robert, don't scold me. Emily is weeping inconsolably. She claims you altered the locks and discarded her possessions on the porch like trash. They weren't thrown away. I neatly packed them, I counter. That's not the issue, and you know it. What is the issue then, Robert? I inquire. A brief silence. He isn't accustomed to me challenging him. Over 17 years of family dinners and celebrations, I have always been the obliging son-in-law, agreeable, accommodating. The issue is that you have a family, a son. You can't just shatter everything due to your anger, he retorts. I didn't destroy anything, I rebut. Then what do you label this? Reprimands. Lawyer Jennifer Morrison's office offers a panoramic view of downtown Raleigh from the 15th floor of a glass structure that mirrors the morning sun. As per her website, she specializes in family law, divorce, custody, property division, the study of legal remains of broken marriages. She appears younger than anticipated, around 35 years old, exuding a seasoned professionalism derived from a track record of more victories than defeats in court cases. Her attire is formal, adornments are sparse, and her handshake echoes business acumen. Mr. Caldwell, I've examined the materials you submitted. Given the circumstances, this case seems relatively straightforward. The circumstances she refers to encompass the photographs, hotel records, and irrefutable evidence of Emily's infidelity, meticulously compiled for legal purposes. North Carolina permits divorce based on fault, and adultery significantly influences both property division and alimony deliberations. Your wife's actions provide us with a strong negotiating position. A strong negotiating position. Legal jargon for the plain fact that actions have consequences. Regarding custody, I suggest it could be obtained predominantly given the substantiated evidence of questionable judgment in regards to the extramarital affair. Courts generally prioritize stability, and you've managed to uphold the family home, maintain employment, and show consistent parenting skills. She unlocks a folder with documents to legally dissolve 17 years of shared life, including a petition for absolute divorce and complaint for custody and support. The paperwork converts feelings into legal realities. Timeline, I inquire. A minimum of 6 months is required. It might extend if she contests, but given the evidence, it may not. She nonchalantly shrugs, offering a professional evaluation based on her professional expertise. I put my signature on the documents. My signature seems different this time, more deliberate, more final. That day, Emily receives the legal termination of our marriage at her real estate office by a courteous process server. 2 hours later, she calls me, pleading, "Nathan, we need to talk." I respond, "Speak with my lawyer." She asserts that I'm being vindictive, but I explain I'm acting practically. As for Caleb, she accuses me of subjecting him to this ordeal because I'm angry at her. I clarify that I'm going through with it because of the choices she made that ended our marriage. I'm merely making it official. Silence ensues. Desire to meet him on weekends, Saturdays in morning, Sundays at night. She contests this is insufficient. It's what you chose. Tears stream down her face, genuine tears, not feigned ones. The melancholy reverberation of recognizing actions carry eternal effects. Nathan, I apologize. So sorry. I'll never see Eric again. I'd do anything she begs. I know you will. But it no longer matters, I declare. Why not? Because trust can't be reconstructed once obliterated from afar. Because I'll forever view you through the lens of hotel photos. Because our son doesn't require watching parents feign affection. She swears her love for me, possibly, but your self-love overpowers. Not enough for a marriage. I end the call and shut off my phone. That night, Caleb and I order Chinese food, eating directly from containers while watching baseball. Simplistic joys, untouched by emotional manipulation. "Dad," says Caleb, "are you feeling sad about the divorce?" I answer, "Sometimes, but not necessarily as you might think." He asks, "Then how are you feeling?" I consider my words carefully. I explain that I am sad because things didn't turn out as we had planned, yet I am not sad about being without her. He appears to understand. Are we going to be all right? I assure him we will be better than all right. How do I know? Because we are truthful with each other. We don't try to hide or change the truth. The divorce progresses in a routine manner. At first, Emily objects, hires her own lawyer, and threatens to contest for primary custody. However, after reviewing Greg's evidence, her attorney explains the reality of North Carolina family law. Infidelity holds weight here. Morality clauses and custody agreements aren't unusual. In a sterile conference room under harsh fluorescent lights, a mother, visibly distraught, fails to impress conservative judges with her choice of spending a night with a stranger instead of being with her family. Emily's defense weakens within 2 weeks. At the settlement conference, her lawyer, looking frazzled and longing for simpler real estate closings, sits across from me. My client is ready to accept the proposed custody arrangement. Primary custody to Mr. Caldwell, with visitation every other weekend and alternating holidays. Emily refuses to meet my gaze. Instead, she focuses on her hands, dabbing at tears supplied by her attorney. The division of property is discussed next. My attorney proposes the marital home, retirement accounts, and vehicle to Mr. Caldwell. Mrs. Caldwell keeps her car and personal belongings. Regarding alimony, there's a pause. Emily's lawyer shuffles papers. Given the circumstances, my client waives any right to alimony. The situation. Everyone seems to treat Emily's betrayal as if it were an unfortunate event that happened to us instead of decisions she made. Within an hour, We had dissected 17 years of shared life into legal classifications. Property, custody, support, everything was boiled down to terms enforceable by a court. When we parted ways, Emily looked at me and said, "I hope you're satisfied." I wasn't satisfied or dissatisfied. I was done. With me. With pretending. 2 months later, the decree became final, making me an officially divorced father with primary custody of a 12-year-old son. Emily moved into a small apartment near her sister's place in North Hills. As agreed, she got Caleb every other weekend. The first time she came to pick him up, she arrived early and waited in her car for 10 minutes before knocking. Upon opening the door, I noticed she seemed smaller than I remembered, unsure. "Hello," she said. "Hello," I replied. "Is he ready?" "Caleb, your mother's here." I called upstairs. Downstairs, he appears with a backpack filled with clothes, assignments, and gaming equipment, possessions of a child adapting to life in two places. "Hey, Mom," he says, to which she responds affectionately, "Hey, sweetheart." She embraces him longer than usual. "Are you all set for our weekend?" he queries. "The movies sound good," he suggests. "Whatever you want," she agrees. They depart in her Honda Civic, leaving me solitary in a home transitioning from tense to tranquil. I grab a beer and settle on the back porch, absorbing the Saturday afternoon symphony of lawn mowers, children's laughter, and distant highway noise. My phone vibrates. A message from my brother in Charlotte. "How are you coping?" Pondering his inquiry, I realize I am not overwhelmed with sadness, bitterness, or anger anymore. I respond, "I'm good. Truly good. And I mean it." 6 months post-divorce, I sold the house. It had too many memories, too much room for two people echoing through 4 bedrooms. The real estate agent, not Emily, secures a reasonable price in a market beneficial for sellers. As a result, Caleb and I relocate to a more compact residence near his school. Equipped with 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, and a spacious yard suitable for a potential pet, the reduced mortgage payment is only half of our previous amount. The atmosphere lacks the burdensome tension associated with unspoken grudges. "It feels different," Caleb remarks on our inaugural night in the new dwelling. "Good or bad different?" I inquire. "Simply different, perhaps lighter," he responds. I understand the lightness he's referring to. Emily finds it challenging to adapt. She frequently contacts us beyond the mandated divorce decree limits, usually concerning Caleb's schedule or school activities. Sometimes she simply calls to preserve some connection to the life she surrendered for brief interactions with a stranger. "How's the new house?" she inquires during one of these conversations. "It's good. Caleb appreciates being near his school," I respond. "And you? How do you fare?" "Are you seeing someone?" Her question lingers, uncertain as a bridge she hesitates to cross. "No," I respond, "not yet, because I'm not ready, focused on being a good father, learning to find peace in my solitude." She replies, "Remember your self-sufficiency, one of your strengths." A pause. Then, "I miss you. Miss the safety we had, the life we built together. But it's not you I miss." I counter, "If I truly missed you, I wouldn't have acted as I did." She begins to cry. I've learned to distinguish Emily's tears. These are the exasperated ones. The cries of someone who longs to rewrite the past, but can't find a way. "I made an error, Nathan. A single one," she says. "It wasn't an error. It was a decision, a sequence of choices. You chose to request the hall pass. You chose to conceal your whereabouts. You chose to be with Eric. You opted to return home, feigning no issues, while I was striving to salvage our marriage," she asserts. "You were attempting the impossible, having your cake and eating it too." As usual, the discussion concludes with her weeping and me feeling nothing but a detached sense of pity. I don't despise Emily. Despising requires passion, and I have none where she's concerned. What I feel is clarity. The piercing, unadulterated clarity that emerges from truly seeing someone as they are, rather than who one wished them to be. At work, I've never been more focused. Tasks are completed promptly and within budget. My reputation expands among the compact circle of contractors and architects. Nathan Caldwell delivers quality work, avoids drama, and always keeps his word. As a result, my business flourishes. I take on an apprentice, a young man named Marcus, who mirrors my 25-year-old self in eagerness, diligence, and thirst for knowledge rather than shortcuts. During one of his visits, my brother observes, "You seem changed." "Somehow, you've found yourself," I query. "In what way?" he replies. "You've become clear about your identity. For 17 years, I was Nathan husband, provider, the dependable one who fixed and paid bills on time. Now, I am simply Nathan father, electrician, man of my word, expectant of the same from others. I had been contemplating what she took from you," he goes on. "But perhaps it's more about what she freed you from." "What do you imply?" I inquire. "You were striving to be Emily's ideal husband, yet she desired none of that. She craved excitement, risk, the allure of being chosen by strangers. You cannot rival that because it is not a contest. It is a disorder, a clinical term for something that was never truly about you. Emily did not leave you for Eric," he states. "She left you for the feeling Eric offered her, the affirmation, the fleeting euphoria of being desired by someone new. And when that subsides," I query, "she might move on or return. It no longer concerns you either way." He's correct. Emily's reliance on external validation and her struggle to find happiness in stability and loyalty are issues she must address herself. I invested 17 years trying to be adequate for someone who would never be content with sufficiency. The realization is freeing in a manner I hadn't anticipated. Caleb adapts effortlessly to our new life, embodying the vigor of youth. His academic performance improves, and he forms friendships within the neighborhood. On weekends, when he's with Emily, I take advantage of that time to tackle household projects, delve into books I've been meaning to read, reacquaint myself with the sound of silence. "Have you ever considered dating?" queries Sarah, the divorced parent of one of Caleb's teammates. We're at a little league game, exchanging the kind of casual conversation that occurs between single parents. "Occasionally," I respond. "But she's unsure about giving control to someone who could disturb my tranquility." She chuckles. "That's one of the most truthful things I've ever heard a man express regarding relationships." I mention, Emily taught me a valuable lesson about the contrast between solitude and loneliness. And I was lonely while married. I haven't been lonely since. The game carries on. Caleb scores a hit, steals second base, slides into third on a wild pitch. I cheer from the stands, snapping photos with my phone, fully engaged in a moment that is solely his and mine. This is sufficient. This peaceful existence. This uncomplicated happiness. This void of chaos and emotional coercion. Emily claimed nearly 17 years of my life, but she provided something else as well. The understanding that I don't require another to fulfill me. I was whole all along. I simply forgot for a while. A year passes, and Emily appears at the house on Caleb's 13th birthday. Not our old home. That's now owned by a young couple, their initial abode, their fresh start. She arrives at the smaller home, the one Caleb and I transformed into a comforting abode. As I clean dishes, I notice her new car parking in the driveway, a smaller, more cost-effective model than the SUV she used when we were married, reducing expenses like everything else in her post-divorce lifestyle. Caleb is away at a friend's house for a sleepover. The house is quiet and peaceful, a tranquility I've grown to cherish. She's unaware that he's absent. Upon seeing her, I can tell she's brought a present. It's visible through the kitchen window, wrapped in blue paper and adorned with a silver bow. After standing on the porch for a full minute, she knocks. When I open the door, she appears older, not drastically but subtly. Evident signs of a life that hasn't unfolded as expected, weary eyes and less assured posture. "Hello, Nathan," she greets. "Hello," I respond. "Is Caleb here?" "I brought him a gift for his birthday." "He's at a friend's house," I inform her. Understanding dawns on her face. She holds the wrapped gift, pondering that a call beforehand would have been wise. "Perhaps," I concur silently. An uneasy silence ensues, as if she anticipates an invitation or space to enter. I remain motionless. She queries about my well-being. I reciprocate her inquiry. Decent, is my reply, adding, and you? Her response mirrors mine. Fine. Different. Still navigating life's complexities. She requests entry, followed by a conditional question, a brief stay. I weigh the pros and cons. She no longer resides here. Boundaries must be upheld. This dwelling serves as my safe haven. Certain doors might best remain closed. I suggest we converse outside instead. She complies, depositing the present on the porch railing. The house looks well maintained, she comments, to which I express gratitude. Are you content, Nathan? Her question catches me off guard. Emily was not known for her candor. Happy is my follow-up. Yes, that's me, she says. You think about us? She asks. What we had wasn't authentic, Emily. It was my attempt at filling a void for someone who couldn't find contentment in enough, I retort. That's not fair, she protests. Fair? I almost grin. You sought approval to be unfaithful. You deceived me about your whereabouts. You spent a night with another and returned acting as if nothing occurred. Now you talk of fairness. She turns her gaze towards the street, where children ride bikes and dogs are being walked by neighbors. Ordinary suburban activities on a world that continues to turn despite personal turmoil. I miss you, she whispers. You miss the notion of me, the security, the life we constructed. But you don't miss me, I tell her. How can you know what I miss? If truly you missed me, you wouldn't have acted as you did. People don't destroy what they genuinely value. Tears then start to flow. I recognize them. Crying over the impossibility of altering the past, she says, I felt lost, Nathan. I was nothing more than a wife and mother. To which I retort, you chose that for 17 years, not handed a prison sentence. You don't comprehend, she replies. I do understand. Disenchanted with the life you constructed, you opted to destroy it. Believing you could have both thrill and safety, you were mistaken. She dabs her eyes. Shouldn't there be forgiveness? Aren't there second chances? I forgave you, but that doesn't mean I must trust you again. That doesn't mean I must act as if you didn't reveal your true self when you felt secure, she states. People might change, Nathan. Perhaps. But I have no desire to discover that. The dialogue ends. She hesitantly grasps the gift. Will you pass this to Caleb? She inquires. I certainly will, I respond. Tell him I adore him. He's aware. She heads towards her car, actions cautious and calculated, as if exploring uncharted terrain. Before entering, she looks back. I hope you find someone who brings joy to your life, she says. I already have, I respond. Who then? Yourself, she departs, her rear lights vanishing into the evening commute. I linger on the porch for a moment, taking in the sounds of the neighborhood. A dog barking in the distance. The subtle hum of air conditioners. The everyday concert of people living routine lives without theatrics or deceit or the urge to overcomplicate tranquil satisfaction. Within, I pour myself a beer and take a seat at the kitchen table. The same table where we assist Caleb with homework, where we consume breakfast every morning, where we strategize weekends and discuss his school day. This suffices, this peaceful abode, this straightforward life. Without tiptoeing around others' emotions, Emily sought vibrancy, desired to be cherished, and craved danger. She obtained her desires, but lost everything in the process. I yearned for tranquility, honesty, and a partner who selected me consistently, not just when it was convenient, safe, or expected. I received my wish as well. My phone vibrates with a text from Caleb announcing enjoyment at the party and plans to see me in the morning. Love you, Dad. I respond with love and a cake request. My home, filled with customary creaks and sighs of a place that has grown accustomed to being my refuge, surrounds me. Tomorrow, Caleb will return from the sleepover, celebrating his 13th birthday and sharing stories. We'll visit batting cages, possibly catch a movie, and undoubtedly indulge in ice cream. These modest joys are untainted by the emotional wreckage of broken vows and shattered faith. I empty my beer and secure the door. The lock clicking shut carries an unyielding finality, serving as a barrier for safety. Some doors once closed should remain sealed. Tomorrow brings pancakes, birthday serenades, and the hearty banter of a father and son sharing a deep bond. There will be no tense footsteps, no cautious discussions on sensitive subjects, no feigning normality in the face of turmoil. Instead, there will be honesty, tranquility, and an abundance of positivity. Sometimes, you don't have to destroy a connection. Rather, you withdraw your affection and allow them to descend alone. Thus concludes today's narrative. Did it meet your expectations or introduce an unexpected turn? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Let's initiate a discussion. If this story captivated you, don't forget to tap the like button. And if you're new here or haven't subscribed yet, now is the ideal moment to join our community. Daily, I deliver enticing narratives. Therefore, hit the subscribe button and enable notifications to stay updated. Thank you for your attention, and I look forward to connecting with you again soon.